Hare Krishna. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam Pangum langayate girim Yakripātamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarina Nana Shastra Vicharinai Kanipunau Saddharma Samsthapakau Lokanam Hitakarinau Tribhuvane Manyau Sharanyakarau Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandena Mattalikau Vande Rupa Sanatanau Raghuyugau Shri Jiva Gopalakau. With verse 2 of Nectar of Instruction. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyamscha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. So the translation goes like this. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required, over-endeavoring for mundane things which are very difficult to obtain, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically, associating with worldly minded people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, and being greedy for mundane achievements. So, yesterday we had seen about controlling the 6 urges. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Vegam, Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udara Vegam, Upashta Vegam. 6 urges. What are the 6 urges and how one can actually control the 6 urges, failing which one actually cannot control one's senses and failing which one cannot save even oneself. And we had also seen that how by controlling these 6 urges, one actually saves himself from repeated birth and death. And not only one can save himself, a person who is actually able to tolerate these 6 urges. Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jihva Vegam, Udaropastha Vegam, Etan Vegan Yo Vishaheta Dhiraha. A sober person who is able to tolerate these 6 urges, that person can not only save himself, Sarvamapi Mam Prativimsa Sishyat. He is qualified to make disciples all over the world. That means that person not only saves himself, but he can also guide the whole society. So therefore, one's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. Now, this is the second set of don'ts. Yesterday, we had seen the first set of don'ts. Today we are going to see the second set of don'ts. Now we are in the prescription. The main prescription, as we have discussed, we have already seen in Srimad Bhagavatam. That is to take to the bhakti of the Supreme Lord by the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam. And we had also seen the 9 processes of bhakti. Now we are going to the other part of the prescription. The other part of the prescription is do's and the don'ts when one is actually endeavoring towards bhakti, towards the path of bhakti, when one is following the path of bhakti, or when one has actually started to take to the process of bhakti very sincerely, then there are certain do's and there are certain don'ts. So first we started with the don'ts yesterday. So controlling the 6 urges. Becoming a victim to the 6 urges should not be done. Whereas one has to control the 6 urges. Similarly, today we will see 6 more very important aspects which have to be actually controlled. One should not take to this. These are strictly don'ts. Atyahara. What does atyahara mean? Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Prayasa. Prayasa means over endeavoring for mundane things which are actually not going to help one in Krishna consciousness, and over endeavoring for those things which are otherwise very, very difficult to obtain. Prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha refers to Niyamagraha and Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means accepting the scriptural rules for material benefit, or not understanding the purpose, following the rules just for the sake of following them without understanding the purpose behind the rules. And neglecting spiritual rules comes under Niyam Agraha. So Niyamagraha is actually it refers to both. Accepting the scriptural rules without understanding the purpose behind the rule, or willfully being neglectful of the scriptural rules. Janasanga. Janasanga means, Sangha means what? Association. Associating with worldly people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. Laulyam. Being greedy for mundane achievements. So therefore, even in one of the 6 activities, if one becomes entangled with this, then his devotional life is sure to be destroyed. So let us all see a very important concept here. Let us revise this concept. We have already discussed this in our previous session also. So Krishna's energy is divided into 3 types. There are 3 types of energy for the Supreme Lord. One is the Antaranga Shakti, and of which Srimati Radharani is the in charge. Next is the Bahiranga Shakti. Bahiranga Shakti refers to the material nature. And the other Shakti is called as the Tatastha Shakti. Tatastha Shakti means it refers to the marginal energy of the Supreme Lord. That means there is a tendency for those who are in Tatastha Shakti to either be under the control of Antaranga Shakti or Bahiranga Shakti. That refers to the Jivas, or to all the souls. The Jiva can either be under the control of the internal potency of the Supreme Lord, Antaranga Shakti, or he can actually be under the influence of the Bahiranga Shakti, depending on his free will. If he is the Nitya Siddhas, or the residents of the eternal spiritual world, Vaikuntha planets, Goloka Vrindavan, they are all under the Antaranga Shakti of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, those devotees who are completely engaged in preaching the glories of the Supreme Lord, even on this planet, they are also, although they may be here, they are also under the Antaranga Shakti of the Supreme Lord. They are not actually influenced by the modes of nature. But there are certain living entities which are under the Bahiranga Shakti. That refers to the conditioned soul who is completely rebellious. So the Tatastha Shakti, or the marginal energy, has a tendency either to be on, either to be controlled by the internal energy or by the external energy. That is the Bahiranga Shakti. So one who is controlled by the internal energy is called as a Mahatma. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakriti mashrita. That is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Bhajanti ananya manaso. So who are Mahatmas? Mahatmas are those who are under the control of Daivi Prakriti, who have completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord. And who are Duratmas? Duratmas are those who are influenced by Maya, Mahamaya, or the Bahiranga Shakti. So therefore, either one can be a Mahatma or a Duratma, or one can be struggling also in between. He may have been a Duratma, but he has come to the process of Krishna consciousness and he is struggling in between. So Upadeshamrita is again meant for such people only. It is not meant for the pure devotees. It is meant for those people like us, like all of us, who have, by some good fortune, have come into the association of devotees and have started putting faith in the process of bhakti, but who again have lot of conditionings and weaknesses. So in order for us to reach from the lowest stage of bhakti to the highest stage, Upadeshamrita is meant. So when a person is actually putting his steps forward in bhakti, that means he is not perfect, but he has faith that the process of bhakti is perfect. Then there comes many impediments for that person because he has been conditioned since time immemorial. For example, there is a fan in this room. Okay, it has been rotating at a certain speed. Now, if I try to put that fan off, it is not that the fan is going to, stop immediately, right? It will take some time for the fan to stop. Similarly, we all are conditioned. We all have been rebellious of the Supreme Lord since time immemorial. So, for us to actually come to the pure platform, it is going to take a lot of time. And it depends on our attitude actually. If we are very serious about the process, then in a relatively shorter time, one can actually attain perfection. Otherwise, it's going to take some time. So one has to be aware of this. One has to acknowledge one's position in this material existence. However, we are fortunate, but still we are conditioned. So therefore, Upadeshamrita is meant for them. So the conditioning means what? We have the faith that bhakti is the highest process, but there are many obstacles for us to render devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Now, what are those obstacles? Some of those obstacles are what we have discussed yesterday, the 6 urges. The 6 urges by which one is actually not able to control one's mind and senses. So in the initial stages of bhakti, these material proclivities are prominent in the sadhaka. We may want to serve the Supreme Lord, but we understand that we have so many shortcomings and we have a propensity to do many things which are actually not conducive to the process of pure bhakti. So therefore, these material proclivities are very prominent in the sadhakas. And owing to these material proclivities, one is unable to subdue the 6 urges. Consequently, many other harmful tendencies also develop in the heart of a sadhaka. If one is not able to control these 6 urges, many other impediments are also going to come. So now let us see, those impediments are actually described here. Atyahara, Prayasa, Prajalpa, Niyama. When the mind and senses are not in control, then ultimately they have to be controlled by the external energy of the Supreme Lord. If we are not able to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, and if we are not taking shelter of the internal potency of the Supreme Lord, Srimati Radharani, then what happens? What happens is actually we are controlled by Maya. We are controlled by the material nature. We are controlled by the 3 modes. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha. Ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So therefore, the living entity in this material existence is actually controlled by the 3 modes. And when he is not able to subdue the 6 urges, when he is not able to control the mind and senses, then there are further impediments about which we are going to speak today. So first is Atyahara and Prayasa. What is Ati? Ati means, we all know, it is the Sanskrit word for too much or too much in excess or excessiveness. Ati means excessive. Ahara means the tendency that, the tendency to grasp, the tendency to seize for one's own enjoyment. So ati ahara. Atyahara means ati plus ahara. The tendency to grasp something much more than what is actually required. Atyahara means excessive enjoyment of the sense object through one of the senses or excessive accumulation. So devotees should not accumulate worldly goods like materialists. Now what does this refer to? What does this Atyahara refer to? There are many examples. In fact, every example when we are in conditioned life in this material world, particularly in Kali Yuga, every action which we do has Atyahara tendency in that. Most of the actions. It's very easy to give example. So let us talk about practicing devotees. Atyahara means I have a tendency to collect much more than what I actually require. So in order to understand Atyahara, first of all, one must understand what one requires. What does one require? And one can understand what one requires only when one understands who one is and what is one's position and who is the Supreme Lord. What is the relation between us and the Supreme Lord and what is our duty? When one understands this, one is actually able to understand what actually does one require and what actually does one not require. Unless one understands this, so at least we are on the path of understanding that. As practicing devotees, despite our individual weaknesses and shortcomings, because we are fortunate, because by some means or the other, we have been able to take to the process of bhakti. So therefore, we have some understanding of who we are, although we are not completely realized who we are, who the Supreme Lord is, and what is the relation we have with the Supreme Lord, and what is bhakti, and what is our duty. So therefore, only a person who understands this, only a person who is in knowledge or who has started putting steps towards the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, he will only be able to understand what he actually requires. Other persons, they will not even be able to understand what they require. But still, even as practicing devotees, one must be very careful about certain things. Now, what are those things? First thing is the Atyahara. Atyahara means whatever is required, we are trying to accumulate much more than that. So, grahasthas, they can acquire goods which are sufficient for their maintenance, but not beyond their needs. Accumulating anything beyond one's bodily maintenance, it is actually called Atyahara. It comes under Atyahara. For example, one may be a practicing devotee, but one may want to take a big home loan. That comes under Atyahara. One may be a devotee, practicing devotee. He may be earning around 50,000 a month, but he wants to take a job. No, sorry, he wants to take a flat, 50 lakh rupees flat. And for that, he's going for a big loan. And out of which, most of his money is going to go towards the EMI for that loan. So this is a big obstacle. What will happen if that person takes that loan? If that person takes that loan, he will be agitated always, because a major portion of what is actually given to him by the dint of his karma or indirectly by the Supreme Lord, whatever quota is given to him, in that quota, he is actually trying to spend a lot of money in buying something in a very extravagant way. So definitely he will be disturbed. So what he has to do, he has to work more and more hard. He has to get a better job. Probably he doesn't have the capacity to work so much. Then he has to aim for a better job, which will take more and more of his time. And when the job takes more and more of one's time, one is not able to concentrate on what is one's purpose in this life. He will not be able to understand what is his purpose, who he is. Even if he is a practicing devotee, it is just going to be an impediment. if one actually is going to fall a prey to this atyahara. Just imagine that person, half of his salary is going in paying the EMI. Then can he have any peace of mind? For anything, some quality time is required, right? In order to learn anything or in order to practice Krishna consciousness, or for that matter, anything, some practice is required. And for that practice, some quality time is required. And if his mind is always going to be agitated in how to earn more money, then it is definitely going to be a very big impediment in his devotional service. So therefore, devotees, particularly Grihasthas, we are referring to Grihasthas only here because most of us are married or going to get married. So what should be the goal? The goal should be only to acquire goods which are sufficient for the maintenance. Savings is not wrong, but how to understand what is atyahara or what is over accumulation? Anything which is actually becoming an impediment to the progress of Krishna consciousness. For example, if one is not able to chant one's rounds properly, to be very specific, whatever one is able to earn in 8 hours, 8 hours of work, that only is one's quota. Other than that, whatever effort one is putting is actually atyahara. So therefore, one has to be very careful with this over accumulation, because it is actually going to take away all of one's time and all of one's peace of mind, and thereby one will not be able to focus on the goal of life. Although one might have taken to this process of bhakti, this is a very, very big impediment. What are the other examples? Credit cards. Why do we need a credit card? What is meant by credit card? Credit card means we are trying to spend some money which we have not earned. And generally, why do people have a credit card? Or why do they go for so many extravagant things? So many extravagant things. Going for a loan is not wrong, but one must know what is, what is too much, how much is too much. And one's purpose must be very clear. If one is going to go for some loan, which he is going to repay back in a very short while, that's okay, understandable. But if one takes a very big loan, not understanding, not giving priority to one's spiritual life, then that is not correct. And what about the example of credit cards? What does credit card mean? Credit card mean I am actually trying to spend some money which I have never earned. For why? What do we spend that money? To buy things which actually I do not need. What all does one buy with credit card? Does one buy rice, dal, sabji with credit card, which are required for maintenance? What does one buy with credit card? They will buy so many things which are actually not a necessity, which are actually more of a luxury, material luxury, or a symbol of social status. So therefore, why do they buy that? They spend money which they have not earned in buying things which they do not need to please people whom they do not like. Why do they buy all these things? Because they want some particular social status, so that when somebody sees, they feel envious. And when someone feels envious of them, they feel that they have actually achieved something. What a dirty feeling it is. When your actions are actually creating envy in the other person, what a condemned action it is. Is it something good if our actions are actually going to generate envy? It is a very, very wrong thought process. And unfortunately, the whole modern education is actually headed towards this degradation. They want to achieve so much. They want to accumulate so much. They want, completely, they do not give any importance to spirituality at all. Everybody today is like that, unfortunately. Even elders who are supposed to be wise, they give all kinds of incorrect instructions to the youngsters if they are not trained from childhood. They tell, you please accumulate money. If you are not going to work now, when are you going to work? Then we can ask this, if you are not going to practice Krishna consciousness now, when are you going to practice? You are already 65 years old. You may die any day. Then you are going to take birth again in this material world. And you are going to remain perpetually in this material existence? Because you have always tried to over accumulate and feel very proud and feel very safe in your over accumulation, and you have not given any importance to the purpose of life. So therefore, this problem is not there with the animals. For example, if there is a bag of grains and a bird comes, a bird like a sparrow comes, what is it going to do? It will just take a few grains and it will fly off. That's all. But if a human being comes there, what he will do? He will take the whole bag away. That means, that is what a human being does. He just takes the whole bag away. So that is Atyahara. That means the human being, actually his level of intelligence is much higher. The human form of life itself is a very rare life, in which one can actually realize who is one, who is the Supreme Lord, who he can finish his business in the human form of life because of his intelligence. But he is not making proper use of that intelligence, and he is actually taking to the principle of Atyahara, because of which he gets a false shelter. What happens when one indulges in Atyahara? One actually gets a false shelter that my money is protecting me. The money which I have accumulated is protecting me. The very luxurious asset which I have accumulated, the people's envy, they're not, they will be envious, but they will, put it in such a way that you have achieved something. So all those feelings actually protect me. That is why I am able to maintain. One does not, it takes away one's faith on the Supreme Lord. So it gives a feeling of false shelter. Our shelter is the Supreme Lord. But if one is not careful about this Atyahara, if one does not avoid Atyahara, then actually one is going to remain in illusion because of a feeling of false shelter. That is what happened during recession a few years back. What happened? They took so many loans. They took so much of loan. And finally, all the banks became bankrupt. So other examples of Atyaharis are the Karmis who write books on economic development, the Muktikamis, the Jnani philosophers who over-endeavor to acquire knowledge or write books on dry philosophy, Siddhikamis, and particularly the materialists, those people who do not have faith in Krishna and who work very, very hard in order to gain some money and accumulate. By accumulating, what happens is, are they going to come closer to understanding the purpose of life? Are they going to come closer to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord? No. They are going to go away from the Supreme Lord. So even a practicing bhakta, a practicing sadhaka has to be very, very careful not to, to avoid Atyahara. Otherwise, it's a great impediment on the path of bhakti. Anyway, those who are not devotees, they are anyway completely immersed in this. But at least those of us who have begun to practice, one should be very, very careful. And what does Atyahara? What is Prayasa? This is the second one. Atyahara actually causes Prayasa. Now, what does Prayasa mean? Prayas means what? It's a very simple word. Prayas means over-endeavoring. When one wants to over-accumulate, then obviously one has to over-endeavor. If I want to buy a 1 crore bangla and I have taken a loan, definitely my job will not be sufficient to pay this EMI per month. So then what I have to do? I have to work hard. I have to learn this. I have to learn that. I have to manipulate so many ways, many things. And then I have to try to get some job. Okay, getting into the other job, high paying job is one thing. Will it be very easy in a high paying job? No. They are going to suck your blood out. Definitely they are going to suck your blood out. If they are paying you so much, they will definitely squeeze you. So what happens? Because of over accumulating, one has to over endeavor. And because one is over endeavoring, all his time and all his energy and all his consciousness is taken away. And he ultimately lands up nowhere. What happens during death? Ma kurudhana jana yauvana garvam harati nimesha kala sarvam. Adi Shankaracharya sings in Bhajagovindam. These things are not going to come with you. Maya mayamidam akhilam hitva brahmapadam tam pravisha viditva. He sings, Ma kuru dhana jana yovana garbam. Don't be proud of your dhanam, janam and yauvanam. Why? Harati nimesha kala sarvam. Anytime it can be finished. Either you will be taken away or this whatever you have accumulated will be taken away from you. Harati nimesha kala sarvam. Maya mayamidam akilam hitva brahmapadam tvam pravisha viditva. That's what he sings. So atyahara basically causes prayasa. Because you want to over accumulate, one has to over endeavor or hard labor. Working for 16 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day. Where is the time to practice spirituality? Prayasa means over endeavoring for accumulation. So when the atyahara is there, naturally prayasa will follow. What are examples of prayasa? Cultivation of the knowledge by the jnani. This is also an example of prayasa only. Austerities and the vows taken by the karmis. They take so many austerities. I will go to this temple, this demigod's temple, because I want to achieve something. I know there was one of my friend's mother. She did 3 months of very, very hard penance. Some vrata she undertook many years back because her son has to get into the IIT. Yes, she did lot of tapasya. But what is that? That actually comes under prayasa only, because what is the goal? The goal was to achieve something which is not substantial or which is not going to stay eternally with you. Over endeavoring for that. If it comes of its own accord, it's okay. So you be sincere in your studies, and and if that is destined for you, it will come. Even if you don't over endeavor. But over endeavoring means what? See, getting into IIT or buying a big house is not the problem. If by karma, if you have some good karma from your previous life, and you are actually not over endeavoring and it's coming of its own accord, that is okay. There is no over endeavoring. That can be used in Krishna's service. There is no problem with that. But specifically over endeavoring for that unnecessary luxury or that unnecessary, what do you call, all the unnecessary things. Specifically over endeavoring for that. Wasting all of one's valuable time. See, you just work for 3 or 4 hours a day and you are able to manage, you are able to practice your spirituality nicely, and you are still able to get many material facilities. You are able to get a good house. That's okay. But willfully going in the mode of over accumulation and over endeavoring for that accumulation, that is called as prayasa. And hard labor of ambitious materialists. And nowadays we see everybody is only in this direction. Everybody is headed only in this direction. They want to over accumulate and they want to work very hard. And what happens after that? They work very hard. They come home in the night. Or nowadays it is work from home. Continuously you will be working. You will be having so many plans in your mind. You will not have the purpose of goal of life. And just you will eat and you will sleep. That's all. Where is the time for spirituality? So this is a great impediment. It's a great impediment in the progress of bhakti. This is a very great danger also to the modern world. What are the problems? Let us see now. What is the natural way of life prescribed in the Vedic scriptures? Anyone can live peacefully with some land for producing grains and a cow which gives milk. This is the natural way of life. There is no need to move from one place to another to earn a livelihood. There are some places, in which people travel 3 hours to office and 3 hours back from office. Many people are doing that in many cities. And why is this economic problem coming? Because the capitalists, they accumulate wealth more than needed. And the communists, they are envious of the wealth of capitalists who want to nationalize the whole wealth. So what happens? Capitalists want to accumulate so much and communists want to nationalize everything. So nationalizing everything will not solve the problem. By accumulating so much wealth, what happens? One person becomes very rich and many people become poor. That is what is happening nowadays. What are these IT industries or what are these big other industries? One person is very rich, or a group of some people are very rich and all others are practically slaves. So accumulating so much wealth is not the solution. And some people say their wealth should be divided. That is also not the solution. Then what is the solution to the Satyahara? It's very interesting. So basically the economic problems continue when people desire their own sense gratification. The capitalists desire sense gratification. That is why they are accumulating so much wealth. And the communists, they also desire sense gratification. They are envious of other sense gratification. So they also, have their own plans. So basically this problem, this economic problem will be there when people desire their own sense gratification. Then what is the solution? We'll see an example before we see the solution. Suppose you see $100 note on the street. There are three things which can be done by a person. What are those three things? One is that one may put the currency in one's own pocket. He will see a $100 note lying there and he will see if somebody is watching me. No, immediately take and put it in the pocket so that he can go and enjoy that. This is called dishonesty because that does not belong to him. If that does not belong to him, how can he use that? So next thing, another person, what he may do, that person may not touch it because it belongs to someone else. He sees the note there, but he doesn't touch it at all. Let anything happen to it. Anyway, it is not mine. So this is neglect actually. Now, what does an ideal person do? Or ideally, what should a person do? A person, he should actually find out the person who lost it and deliver it to that person. This is an honest and a wise person. So therefore, when we create a population which is honest and wise, if people are trained in honesty and in being wise, honesty and wise in an absolute sense means one should be in knowledge. One should be in knowledge of who one is, who the Supreme Lord is, what is one's relationship to the Supreme Lord, and what is one's duty, what is the goal of one's life. This is knowledge. To be honest and wise in the absolute sense means one has to be trained in Krishna consciousness. One has to be trained in real knowledge. That will actually give rise to many qualities. So by Lord's complete arrangement, who is the creator of this cosmic manifestation? This whole material world has been created by the Supreme Lord only. By Lord's complete arrangement, this world is designed to fulfill the necessities of all jivas. The Lord is a very kind Father. He has made this material existence for the rebellious souls. But that does not mean, he wants only certain people to enjoy and certain people to suffer. This world is designed to fulfill the necessities of all the jivas, because every jiva in this world is rebellious. And the very purpose of the creation of this material existence is that every jiva, while in this material existence, is able to get access to the Lord's property. Everything is the Lord's property. And one is able to understand the purpose of one's life. That opportunity is actually given to every jiva. But what has happened? And as such, jivas have a birthright to use Lord's property. Just like all of us have a birthright over our parents' property, right? It is actually you are going to be the heir to that property, or you are going to be the person who is going to receive that property. So in the similar way, every living entity actually has the right to use Lord's property for their real necessities. But nowadays what is happening? Somebody wants to usurp a lot, and because of which many people are deprived of many things. The whole culture is like this. The whole modern culture, the modern education, the training in modern education is only in the lines of Atyahara and Prayasa, nothing else. They just do not know anything other than over accumulation and over endeavoring for that accumulation, because they don't know the purpose of life. If people are not trained in purpose of life, then how will they know what is right and what is wrong? They think, yes, because everybody is over accumulating, let me also over accumulate. Everybody is working hard, let me also work hard. There is a story of a rat race. Once what happened? One rat started running. No one knows why it started running. Then another rat sees it, and it is, thinking, oh, maybe I am missing something. Let me also run. Now, when seeing these two rats running, third rat also follows. Then 10 rats follow. Then hundreds of rats follow. Nobody knows why they are running. Are the very rich people, are very, the big capitalists, are they very happy? No. In fact, they are creating so many problems in this world, so many artificial problems. I do not want to discuss more in this forum. Maybe sometime when we meet separately, we can discuss. So many things they are creating. Are the capitalists, so many problems which we are facing today is created by the capitalists who want to completely, gain control over the world. Just a Hiranyakashipu mentality, that's all. They have no control over their senses. So the wealth, there is, because people are not trained properly, there is a big problem in the society. Because there is no proper training. No proper training. Who is the Lord? Who are we? What is our relationship with the Lord? There is no training absolutely in any of these things. So therefore, one does not know what one is doing, and one, just like a rat race, because someone is misleading, everyone is going in the wrong direction. Just because many people are doing something wrong, it doesn't mean that it becomes correct. See, the 100 rats, they don't know why they are running. Similarly, everybody is behind Atyahara and Prayasa. If we ask anything, they will say, yeah, only if we have money, we can actually, then what will happen to us during old age? Then we can ask one more question. Okay, you are saying this money, whatever you are accumulating, is going to protect you during old age. Then what about your death? What is going to happen to you after your death? They don't know, because they are not trained. They are not trained to understand that there is another life. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantaram praptir dhirastatra namuhyati. These principles they are never taught. Does any school teach Bhagavad Gita? Does any school teach Srimad Bhagavatam? No. Nobody teaches. The foundation is completely a very materialistic and selfish life. That's all. So therefore, one who takes more than what is required is actually a thief and is liable to be punished by law. One who knows the art of scientifically utilizing Lord's property will no longer encroach upon another's rights, quota, or life. In fact, the Vedic Varnashrama system is all about this. How to very scientifically utilize Lord's property. There are 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. What do the Brahmanas do? They are not earning money. Nowadays, you see, of course, we cannot say that they are Brahmanas, by the way, because nowadays it is complete chaos in the society. But if you see, even if there are some people who are practiced as Brahmanas, all their children, they are all somewhere in America, Australia, or in other countries earning money. That's all. They claim to be Brahmanas. They are never Brahmanas actually. Probably they are born in some Brahmin family. Just by being born in a Brahmin family does not mean they are Brahmanas. But what are they doing? They are supposed to lead the society. If you are really a Brahmana, you are supposed to lead the society. You are supposed to educate people in the goal of life. But what are they doing? They are just going around to accumulate money. And the Kshatriyas, they used to collect tax and they used to rule. The Vaishyas, they used to take care of agriculture and cow protection. And the Shudras used to assist all the classes. Similarly, they were Brahmacharis, Grihasthas, Vanaprasthas, Sannyasis. Very, very scientific division. So nobody is following the Varnashrama Dharma. Nobody knows that Varnashrama Dharma is the basis for actually practicing Sanatana Dharma. Nobody is taught these things. So the whole society is in a completely misguided direction. So therefore, one must understand that all wealth belongs to Krishna, because this whole material world has been created by the Supreme Lord. He is the creator. Sarva Karana Karanam. Lakshmi Sahasra Sadasham Brahmasevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Samaham Bhajami. So it's said in Brahma Samhita, Lord is actually served by Lakshmi Sahasra Sadasham Brahmasevyamanam. He is actually served by thousands and thousands of Lakshmi in the spiritual world. So all the wealth actually belongs to whom? All the wealth belongs to Supreme Lord. So therefore, it is said in Ishopanishad, Isha Vashimidam Sarvam, Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat, Tena Tyaktena Punjita, Magrida Kasya Siddhanam. Everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by Supreme Lord. So one has to come to this understanding. One has to know who is God first of all, to understand that everything belongs to Him. That is very much missing in our modern education. Nobody knows who is God. Therefore, Tena Tektena Bhunjita Magrida Kasya Siddhanam. So understanding that everything is controlled and owned by the Lord, one should accept only those things which are necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota. That means whatever comes naturally of its own accord without over endeavoring, that only is our quota. That means whatever comes naturally when you work for not more than 8 hours a day. Whatever it is coming, that only is our quota. Whatever is coming outside that, that is not our quota. You work 8 hours a day, whatever is coming, that is your quota. You work 12 hours a day, that is not your quota. You are actually encroaching someone else's property. And whom does that property actually belong to? One should accept those things necessary for himself, set as his quota, and one should not accept other things knowing well to whom they belong to. Whom does it belong to? It belongs to the Supreme Lord. You are trying to encroach. If you try to encroach some property, someone's land, what is going to happen? You will be punished. You will be prosecuted. Right? If you try to encroach some land which doesn't belong to you. So therefore, people are being punished. But unfortunately, they don't even know that they are punished. That is our situation. They think we have so many things today, so many problems today. There is a pandemic, and there is economic problem. There is poverty. There is employment problem. All these problems are there. People think it's normal. They don't know that they are being beaten. They are being thrashed. They are being slapped. They don't know. They are not educated. They are not trained to know these things. So, solution of Atyahara and Prayasa is understanding that all wealth belongs to the Supreme Lord. Understanding who is the Lord, who are we, and who is the controller. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sahridam Sarvabhutanam Yatva Mam Shanti Vichyati. So only a person who knows that the Supreme Lord is the Bhokta, who is the enjoyer, he is the supreme enjoyer of all the sacrifices. Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, who knows that the Supreme Lord is the controller of everything. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, who knows that the Supreme Lord is actually the well-wishing friend of every living entity. Only such a person is peaceful. Therefore, nobody is peaceful nowadays, except the practicing devotees. So, a part of the solution to Atyahara and Prayasa is to understand the right utility of human form of life. Human form of life is meant for simple living and high thinking. Thinking that a plain life and high thinking, nowadays people think that if someone has a very simple life, he is very primitive. So this is a big misconception. So higher intelligence given in this human form of life has to be made use of to understand who is the Supreme Lord, what is our goal of life, what is devotional service, what is dharma, ahara nitra, bhayamaitunam cha, samanametat, pashubir naranam, dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho, dharme nahinam, pashubir samanam. So it is said, human form of life is meant to understand what is dharma, dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesho. Otherwise, dharme nahina, pashubir samana. The dharma is meant for ultimate liberation. One should understand that dharma, whatever we practice, the varnashram dharma, the goal of that is not material prosperity. Although material prosperity will come of its own accord, you don't need to over-endeavor for it. Over-endeavoring for it is actually a big obstacle. Dharmasya hyapavargasya narthottayopakalpate narthasya dharmekantasya kamolabhaya hi smrita. So intelligence is misused when actually one takes to prayasa and possesses unnecessary amenities. Because the intelligence which is given in the human form of life, it's very valuable. It can actually take one away from this material existence, and it can, take one back to Godhead, back home, back to Godhead. But if that intelligence is not used properly, and if artificially one wants to enjoy this material world and therefore takes to Atyahara and Prayasa, then it is actually the misuse of intelligence and the misuse of the whole purpose of life. So therefore, real purpose of one's life should be to endeavor to inquire about the absolute truth. One must have prayasa, but what should that prayasa be directed towards? Not earning money, not over-endeavoring to earn money or over-endeavor for anything else. All that prayasa must be to inquire, the same prayasa must be to inquire about the absolute truth. See, yesterday we had seen, the problem and we had seen the antidote to the problem also. What is the problem? Vacho vegam, speaking unnecessary things. Then what is the antidote? What is the remedy? Use the same speaking power, but to glorify the Supreme Lord, to glorify the devotees, to discuss about devotional service. That is the proper use of speech. In fact, if one uses his speech like that, he will actually go back to the spiritual world. Similarly, this prayasa is there. The same prayasa should be to inquire about the absolute truth. Tattva jignasa. This all prayasa must be used to inquire about the supreme truth. Kamasya nendriya pretir labho jivita yavata. Jivasya tattva jignasa nartho yascheha karmabhi. So life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. That's all. Since a human being is meant not for atyahara or for accumulation or to spend one's life like cats and dogs without knowing the purpose of life. Human life is meant for inquiring about the absolute truth. So nothing else should be the goal of one's work. That is said by Suta Goswami to the sages of Naimisharanya. Okay. For example, the karmis work very hard to accumulate more and more money. But because they don't know their position in the next life. There is an example. A wealthy karmi took his next birth in a cobbler's house. So you can go through that example. I think we are already 6:25 now. Okay, let us see. Now next impediment is prajalpa. We have seen atyahara, prayasa. What does prajalpa mean? Prajalpa means to waste one's time and energy in the following activities. What are those? Useless mundane talk, gossiping about others, criticizing others. All this comes under prajalpa. Now what it does when we are practicing devotees, when we actually waste our time and energy in useless talk, in simply gossiping about others, in criticizing others, then it actually saps away all our energy. We all have these tendencies, yes, because we are not pure devotees. We have just begun our devotional service. We all have this tendency to some extent or the other. Simply we want to talk about someone, something. Go on talking. And simply gossiping, simply criticizing. All this actually comes under prajalpa. Now what happens when we take to devotional service, but we are also having these tendencies, or we are trying to give in to these tendencies? It is like this. Our devotional service is compared to a creeper actually. So that creeper has to grow very nicely. In order for a creeper to grow into a big tree, it has to be nicely watered. So the watering process is Shravanam and Kirtanam. So somebody, we are very fortunate by the grace of the Supreme Lord, we have come to this process of Krishna consciousness. Someone has been very kind to us and someone has planted that seed of bhakti in our heart. Now what should we do when the seed is planted? One has to water the seed regularly. This is one part, but one must also know that one has to take away the weeds. Just by watering the seed, by not taking away the weed, what happens is all that water is actually consumed by the weeds. So similarly, when we have taken to this process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, if we are not careful about removing these weeds like prajalpa and all, what happens is it takes away all our energy. And this, what happens to a seed if you are watering it but you are not taking the weed? The growth of that plant will be very stunted. It will not grow properly and probably it may die in between also. And all the weeds will grow. Similarly, when we take to devotional service and we do not uproot these weeds of prajalpa, atyahara and all, then our devotional life will be very stunted, or we may even fall down completely also. So therefore, that's very important. One should not waste one's time in useless talk. And what are other examples of prajalpa? Criticizing sadhus, simply criticizing devotees. This is also comes under prajalpa. Jnani is mundane dry scholarship and useless vivadam or argument. Karmi's praise of benefits of pious deed. Somebody will say, you perform this ritual, you will get this benefit. So speaking about all these things, it also comes under prajalpa only. The talk of the materialist. When two persons talk, And when they are not devotees, or when they are not trying to put Krishna in the center, their talk is actually Prajalpa, because they don't know who they are. They don't know the purpose of life. So simply they keep on speaking something. It all comes under Prajalpa. Then newspapers, magazines, novels. There are people, who read lot of newspapers a day, who read so many magazines. They are very, very old. They are about to die, but they are still not able to give up this. So devotees should be very, very careful. It's a very big impediment. It's a very big impediment. For non-devotees, anyway, it's an impediment. They can never come to devotional service. But if devotees have these tendencies to read the newspaper, see, to know some news is not wrong. Maybe 5-10 minutes you can read just to understand what is going on, to have some awareness. But what happens is generally it doesn't stop with that awareness. One goes so deep into the topics. This politician did that, that politician did this, this is happening, that is happening. All this is actually Prajalpa. Novels, crossword puzzles. They play, they don't know what to do. They don't know the purpose of life. So they take to crossword puzzles. So these things we should be very careful. Television is a big impediment. That is also Prajalpa. Debates on useless social political schemes. These things are not meant for us. These things actually take away. Every politician, one politician comes, one politician goes. This person is not good, that person is good. Who is good and who is not good? We don't know. And why should we discuss about these things, which actually consume our time and energy? So Prajalpa is actually compared to croaking of a toad. A toad means a frog. When that frog croaks, what happens is it attracts the attention of the snake. So therefore, if we simply speak useless things, what happens is we attract death. Now, how to avoid Prajalpa? One can avoid Prajalpa by talking only about Krishna, by talking about devotional service and everything related to Krishna. One can speak about devotees, how the devotees are practicing Krishna consciousness in their daily lives. You can take inspiration. That talk is very good. That is not Prajalpa. Talking about the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Lord's incarnations, the Supreme Lord's qualities, the Supreme Lord's reciprocation. Everything related to Krishna can be spoken. Being absorbed in the glories of Krishna. See, sometimes we have to be practical. Sometimes we may have to speak about certain normal issues also. The main thing is one must not become influenced by them. You can speak, see, some election is going on, you can speak which party won, which party did not win. But getting into so many details about that and, absorbing oneself in that, that is not good. That is an impediment. General talk is okay. It should just be, yes, no, yes, no, yes. That's it. Reading and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam is the most important part. When we read and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, what happens is we are always absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. And whatever it goes in, that only comes out. When we are absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam, when we are absorbed in devotional service, whatever comes out is also devotional service. Good in, good out. Garbage in, garbage out. So, most importantly, we have to put good things inside. That means we have to read and discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. Niyamagraha. Now, Niyamagraha, let us see. Niyama means rules. Agraha. Agraha means eagerness to accept. Agraha. Agraha means failure to accept. So, Niyamagraha actually it refers to two things. Niyama agraha and Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means what? Every niyama, first let us see, niyamagraha means they are very eager to accept the rules without knowing the purpose of the rules. And niyamagraha means they completely neglect the rules, both of which is actually not good. Now let us see what is niyama. Niyama means it rules. Every niyama has two things. It has a vidhi and a nisheda. Vidhi means the injunction. Nisheda means prohibition. Vidhi means which is supposed to be done. Nisheda means which is not supposed to be done. And what is the purpose behind any niyama or rule? The purpose behind any niyama or rule is to always remember Krishna and to never forget Krishna. That is the purpose of all the rules and regulations. If you accept the rules without understanding the purpose, then it is not beneficial. It is in fact an impediment. You are trying to follow something without knowing the purpose. We will see some examples. And again, the next category is niyamagraha. Agraha means completely being neglectful of the rules and regulations. That is also wrong. You should neither follow the rules and regulations just for the sake of following it without understanding the purpose, Neither, nor you should neglect it completely. Both are wrong. And what fanatical following is called niyamagraha, without understanding the purpose behind the niyama. And practicing rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. This comes under niyamagraha. So avoiding niyamagraha means adjusting details without adjusting or neglecting principles. For example, you see, Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, he actually crossed the ocean to spread Krishna consciousness. Now, many people say, being a sannyasi, he should never cross the ocean. In fact, that is the rule. A sannyasi should never cross the ocean. But what did he do after crossing the ocean? Did he earn money like us? No. Did he bring America's wealth to India or Australia's wealth to India to enjoy? No. What did he do then? He crossed the ocean for a higher dharma, to preach Krishna consciousness, to actually please his spiritual master, because that was the instruction of his spiritual master. So therefore, he crossed the ocean. Now one can tell that he didn't follow the rule that a sannyasi should not cross. No, we cannot say like that. So he avoided niyamagraha. He adjusted the detail without neglecting the principle. The highest principle was that he had to follow the instruction of his guru. Similarly, he performed marriage of his disciples. So one can say, how can a sannyasi perform marriages? But what was the circumstance in America? A boy and a girl, they were living together without getting married, which is very sinful. Particularly because they were practicing devotees, and still they had this misconception that they can stay together, which is very sinful, which will actually not help them progress in their devotional life. So therefore, as a very kind spiritual master, although it was not his dharma to perform the marriage as per Varnashrama, he was sannyasi, but still he performed the marriages for benefiting them. So one cannot say, so if one says that, being a sannyasi, he should not have performed all these marriages, he should not have crossed the ocean, that means that person is actually, that means niyamagraha. He wants somebody to follow rules and regulations just for the sake of following. And another very practical example is a devotee chastising a newcomer. So once I was witnessing this actually. Generally, in whichever vessel the prasadam is cooked, the serving is done using a serving spoon in a temple. Then what happens is, a plate, you are not supposed to touch the serving spoon to the plate. Now what happened? A newcomer had come and he didn't know how to hold his plate. Because of that, his plate actually touched the vessel in which the cooking was done. Then one devotee shouted, "Hey, you're not supposed to do this. Don't you know? It is juta. Your plate is actually the plate which you are eating. How can you touch it to the Lord's plate?" And what was the result of that? The result of that was the newcomer was completely shattered. He didn't come back to the temple at all. So what can we understand from this? This devotee, whatever he's saying was actually correct only. The plate should not touch the vessel in which the food has been cooked for the Lord. But that has to be said in a very, very presentable way. The purpose itself is lost. What is the purpose of following that rule when you actually discourage a person from coming back to the temple or participate in the temple program? That person never came back. So one should understand what is the purpose of the rule. Why is that rule there? That rule is not there so that using that rule is not there so that you can whimsically follow that rule. You should know how to follow the rules and regulations. Rather, he could have very politely told that person, "Okay, let me help you. It's not supposed to be like this. You please sit down. I will just bring this plate for you." Then slowly, he could have, create, in a very polite way, he could have told him, "Actually, you're not supposed to touch it." That would have been very good. And in fact, the other person also would have understood, what is to be done, what is not to be done. Now, just by shouting like that, what happened? This person actually went away. He never came back to the temple. So we have to be very, very careful. So these are very elaborate things. It's taking time. I don't know. Anyway, 6:40 already. So how does niyamagraha spoil bhakti? Let us see these two important points. When we do something without a purpose, we lose taste. When you are following the rules and regulations just for the sake of following those rules, but you don't know the purpose, you actually lose taste. Even if you adjust the rules and regulations, but you understand the purpose, then you never lose the taste. So therefore, the goal of following all the rules and regulations should be that we understand the purpose behind those rules and regulations. And what is that purpose? Following the rules and regulations should actually make us always remind Krishna and never forget Krishna. When Prabhupada crossed the ocean, he never forgot Krishna. In fact, he gave Krishna consciousness to everybody. He gave Vedic culture to everyone. When he performed marriage, he never forgot Krishna. But when this devotee chastised this newcomer in a very insensitive way, what happened? This person actually, was the other person benefited by such chastisement? Definitely not. Or did this devotee progress more in his devotional service just by bringing a principle and shouting it? Did he become more and more close to Krishna? If his spiritual master or his spiritual guide knows he has done like that, he will get chastisement. So therefore, when we do something without knowing the purpose, we lose the taste. And when we do something without a purpose, we do it mechanically. And when we do something without a purpose, we cannot continue doing that activity for a long time. Try to follow the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness for a long time without hearing or discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us see how long we will be able to follow that. And the other part of Niyamagraha is Niyama Agraha. Niyama Agraha means to neglect the Shastric rules and regulations meant for bhakti, to be very negligent. One is following the rules and regulations without knowing the purpose behind them. Fanatically adhering to the rules and regulations without knowing the purpose behind them. And the next principle is Niyama Agraha. Niyama Agraha means to willfully neglect, to be very negligent of the rules and regulations, which is also wrong. For example, neglecting to wear tilak, neglecting to wear kantimala, neglecting to chant on japamala. In case of emergency, it's okay. Suppose you are in a situation where you should not wear tilak, that's understandable. But making it a practice to be without tilak, to be without kantimala. Sometimes you are not able to chant, sometimes you chant on that counting machine, that's okay. But making it a habit and willfully neglecting the principle to chant on a japamala, that is wrong. And sometimes you are not able to take prasadam, you are taking food without onion and garlic, that's okay. But willfully neglecting that is very wrong. Understanding that, okay, I am not able to follow this, and neglecting the principle of taking prasadam, all these things are actually impediments. Fanatical following is also an impediment, neglecting is also an impediment. Okay, so one has to first give up offenses. Krishna prema is not very easily achieved. Just by imagining that we have prema, it does not mean we have prema. One has to give up the offenses and anarthas. So therefore, Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatri Vidin Vina Aikantiki Hare Bhakter Utpatyayaiva Kalpate. So devotional service which ignores the authorized Vedic literatures, which ignores the Vidhi and Nisheda, it is simply an unnecessary disturbance. Now Janasangha. Janasangha refers to associating with people who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. To associate with Mayavadis, to simply blaspheme Vaishnavas, to associate with atheists, worldly and sensualistic people. Now, one very important thing about association is, for example, to progress in any activity, you need association. If you want to become a big businessman, you should have association of other businessmen. If you want to get into the IIT, simply studying at home will not be sufficient. One has to actually enroll oneself in a coaching center, and one has to associate with all those students who are serious about getting into the IIT. If one has to become a doctor, he has to associate with all those students who are aiming a seat in medical college. So association is very, very important for any activity. So what to speak of bhakti? It is even the eternal, the highest activity in this cosmic manifestation, the highest goal of life. So therefore, association of those involved in similar line of business is conducive to advancement in that business. If you want to become a businessman, you have to associate with other businessmen. Similarly, if you want to become a devotee, you have to associate with other devotees. How to associate with devotees, we will discuss tomorrow. What is good association? Good association means association of Krishna conscious devotees. Now, how to apply this Janasangha principle in our household life? Because most of us are householders. Either we have to go to the office or we have to deal with our colleagues at the workplace or at the marketplace where common people are abundant. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains very nicely. Cordiality of life is not in violation of the principle of Janasangha. To be cordial to someone, it does not mean you are actually associating with that person. See, for example, if there are some of your colleagues in office or some very common people, if you tell them, how are you? How are you doing? How is your family? How is everything at your end? In a very cordial, genuine way. That does not come under Janasangha. Then what comes under Janasangha? Janasangha means, see, when one is in a society, one has to be cordial. You just ask, how are you doing? How are you doing, sir? Suppose you meet some of your relatives who are very materialistic. It is not that, when you see them itself, you should turn your face and go away. They are not devotees. So therefore, I'll not speak to them. No, you have to be cordial with them. You have to ask, how are you? How is your life? How is everything going? How is your job? I hope everything is okay at your end. That's it. So that does not come under Janasangha. When you say, how are you? How are you? How is your family? As a matter of cordiality. In fact, one has to be very cordial. But what is Janasangha? When you start discussing personal matters with those people who are not Krishna conscious, when you start revealing, your heart to them, when you start revealing your plans to them, then that comes under Janasangha. That is when you are actually associating with them. When you are being cordial to them, you are not associating with them. But when you actually start speaking some, very personal matters with them, that is called Janasangha. So therefore, when you begin discussing personal matters and when you want to seek advice, you should not do it with worldly minded people. In fact, you should do it only with a few persons. What are the qualities which the person should have? That person should have constant remembrance of Krishna. They should have proper understanding of Krishna and knowledge of Krishna. And those persons who can give us the principles which govern or guide a life of Krishna consciousness. With those persons, one must associate. One must not associate with worldly people. That means one should not become absorbed in any discussion with the worldly people. How are you? How are you? That's it. That is cordiality. That does not come under Janasangha. But when we associate with them, we should be very, very careful. Laulyam. What does laulyam mean? Laulyam mean it refers to both unsteadiness and greed. So basically, laulyam means greed. It refers to useless material and sense enjoyment or attachment to worthless opinions and conclusions. Desire for performing mystic yoga, attaining whimsical material prosperity through all dishonest means. This is different from prayasa. Prayasa is over endeavoring, but still prayasa also is somewhat, if somebody is over endeavoring, but this laulyam means it's greed. Somehow or the other, you want to get material prosperity. That is called laulyam, like, targeting some lottery or all these things. This is all not correct. This is called as laulyam, or adopting all dishonest means to achieve something. So this is all laulyam. So by prajalpa, one criticizes sadhu, and by laulyam, one awakens a taste for false conclusions. So therefore, both prajalpa and laulyam are very detrimental. Particularly, they contribute to nama paradha, both, specifically prajalpa and laulyam. Now, what is the conclusion? If one fails to give up these 6 favorable things for bhakti, then what happens is one's ability to understand the greatness of Krishna bhakti is lost. One will be forever deviated from the path of bhakti. So we are discussing an example. Our bhakti, the bhakti lata, is a very small creeper now. Somehow, by the mercy of the Supreme Lord and Guru, this seed is planted, and the seed has to be nurtured very carefully. It has to be watered with the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam. It has to be nurtured carefully, and at the same time, the weeds have to be taken out regularly so that all the watering is actually utilized by the seed to grow into a beautiful tree. Otherwise, the growth of the tree will be stunted. So therefore, if one fails to give up these favorable things, then one's ability to understand Krishna Bhakti will be lost, and one will be forever deviated from the path of Bhakti. So by avoiding these 6 elementary faults, what happens is not only one becomes a devotee, all the enmity will cease between men and animals. So the whole training in education must actually be on basis of these principles, on avoiding these principles. And in fact, when one is trained in Varnashrama, all the social or political problems which are a result of improper adjustment and mismanagement, all of them will be solved. So one can cultivate such pure consciousness by proper spiritual education and practice. Hare Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Sri Krishna Paramastu. I am very sorry. It took probably 15 minutes more today. We can open up for questions. We can take questions for 10 minutes before we close the session. There is a question. It looks very rude if we don't talk casually and exchange a conversation with seniors, juniors. How to go about it? Hare Krishna Mataji, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, fine. Anyway, let me say. You have to speak to colleagues, seniors and juniors. The only thing is that you should not speak to them in such a way that you become completely absorbed. You should not discuss your personal problems and everything with them. Your personal problems and your inner desires and your goals, your ambitions, all these things you should discuss only with your spiritual well-wishers. You should not discuss with them. Because what will happen is when you associate with them, they do not have any proper conception of life. They do not have a proper conception of the purpose of life. Then what is going to happen is they are actually going to speak something in which your own bhakti, what you have been practicing until today, may become disturbed. That's all. That is what happens. Now, for example, I hope you are getting me, right? You give your association to them sometime, but you don't take their association. Are you getting me, Mataji? My answer is clear. So you can talk to them, but talk to them casually. That's it. Don't go into details.
Sometimes it will happen. Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I could unmute now. My question is, sometimes we get into the conversation and exchange pleasantries and go on talking. If you just want to, and the conversation goes on, and if you don't want to participate, it looks like you had been very rude and looks like they've been not participating, because all these days we were doing, and now with this knowledge we don't want to do it, and you want to avoid unnecessary mundane talks with our relatives or our friends, wasting time, and then that looks very rude. How she is initially, so she was nicely chit-chatting and gossiping and talking about all nonsense, right from cricket to shopping and sarees and everything, and suddenly they have changed, becomes very arrogant, and so how to go about it? It's a very practical thing, Prabhuji.
Very
it sounds
good question,
very silly, but yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Kindly, please tell us.
So, as you are saying, until today, we have been something, today we are something else, right? So, definitely, it has to be handled very sensitively. So, ultimately, one has to be very sincere in one's purpose, Mataji. So, make it a very gradual thing. Make it gradual. And when they see that you are very sincere in your purpose, tell them, if possible, you can tell them also that, I have some other work or my priorities are changing nowadays. You can tell to them in a way in which they will understand, but politely. Then definitely they will be able to understand. But because ultimately Krishna is sitting in everyone's heart. So if you are sincere in your purpose and you are having a sincere intention that they should not get hurt, and you are having and if you cultivate a sincere intention that even they should be benefited, Krishna will give you intelligence how to deal with the situation. But you have to deal with it very sensitively. I can agree. I agree to that. But always pray to Krishna. What I would say is keep on praying to Krishna. And a very important part of praying to Krishna is please cultivate a good relationship with your spiritual well-wisher. So whatever you express, your inspiration and everything, have a person to whom you can express it on a regular basis, and the Lord will reciprocate through that person. But be very cordial, okay? This is very important. You should not mistreat them. They will feel offended, and probably it will lead to damage in the relationship. You should not offend them. You should be very cordial to them, but you should also be very sincere in your own practice, by which the Supreme Lord will help. will help you. Ultimately, Lord only has to inspire Mataji what to be done, what not to be done in a particular situation. Only thing we can do is we can maintain the sincerity of our purpose and increase our sincerity. That's it. Don't worry, but you have to be cordial. We have some other question. Yes. Mataji, did my answer address your question? Maybe you can. Okay. I got your answer in the ping.
Okay, done.
Any other question? Let me see the
Yes,
chat.
Prabhuji. Actually, I asked, can we relate this Atyahara and Prayasa to Bhagavad Gita 18.8, Prabhuji?
What is that verse, Mataji? I don't remember 18.8.
Dukkham iti eva yat karma kaya klesha bhayat tyajet sakritva rajasam
I have to
tyagam.
refer to that verse, Mataji.
The purpose says one who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he is performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one
Yes.
can advance in transcendental
So
Krishna
working means it refers to working for 8 hours. It is not that
Okay.
you say you work for 12 hours and I will engage the money in Krishna service. That kind of money is not required for Krishna. Krishna does not need our money, Mataji. Krishna needs us. Krishna needs our love. That's it. He does not need our money. Okay?
So
one
more
cannot justify
effort, but still we are utilizing that for Krishna conscious also is not correct.
Exactly. Whatever you are able to earn within 8 hours by performing your sadhana and your seva nicely, that money you can offer a part to Krishna. It is not that you neglect your sadhana and your own spiritual advancement and your reading and hearing. You neglect all that and use that time also to work and get some increment and give that money to Krishna. That money Krishna does not want.
Oh, okay, Prabhuji. And
Yes.
one more thing, you are discussing that example, na Prabhuji. The 3 ways: dishonest, then ignoring, and honest. So
I didn't get you, Mataji. Can you be more clear?
now is it am I audible, Prabhuji?
It's better.
So one more slide you were showing example of $1,000. If we get,
Yes.
the first is being dishonest, next is
Yes.
ignoring, and third is honest.
Yes.
So my mind says, in fact, of finding the person, sometimes it is not possible, na Prabhuji. So what I think is that I will take that money and put it in the hundi. So
That
if
is
the
good.
Lord permits,
You are giving it to the ultimate owner if you put in the hundi.
if he is actually willing, he will create some way and send to the owner.
Yes, correct.
Okay, Prabhuji.
That is correct. Yes.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dhanavad Pranam, Prabhuji.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you for your enthusiastic participation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,